Top of the day to you on this inspirational journey. As we journey to and fro upon this earth, I pray that all has been well. I am that reporter reporting to you the way, the truth, and life. Because life be lifing. What happened to Monday? What's the word? Have you heard? What are our understandings and expressions of stages of have we received the Holy Spirit? If we forgive anyone's sin, they will be forgiven. But if we don't, then their sins will not be forgiven. But guess what? It goes the same for us too. So how can we go to God and ask him to forgive us, but we won't forgive others? I'm not telling you to go and, forgive them and be besties, or that's not what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But it would be nice, but if you know a snake is a snake, you already know what snake does, right? They bite. So just be, I guess, humble as a bird, wise as a serpent. That's what the word says, even though I'm paraphrasing and messing that up too. So make sure you always go and Google and search. Make sure you have an iPad, just in case I have said something to help us along our way. Make sure you have highlighters, and make sure you Google and search. So get that notebook, that pen, that highlighter, and let's dig in. So don't doubt, so stop all that doubting and just have faith. All right. So do we have faith because we have seen God, like we've seen him? All right. Or like the people who have faith in him, but without seeing him are the ones who are really blessed. So faith is very, very important when we have in this walk. It's very, very important when we look at what grief is in a spiritual light. So if we have faith in God, we will have true life. So the resurrection changes everything. So how we believe, how we live, how we relate to God, how we relate to each other. God is telling us that the resurrection is not just in the event; it's personal. It's a personal encounter that it's like a transformation for us. It transforms our fear into faith. All right. So our doubt, it needs to be turned into a revelation. All right, is a reality. So as a follower, it also allows us to be a witness. We become witnessing. So we tell others how we made it through, about our faith, about God, and how he worked by using the word, how he moved into our life, how the Holy Spirit lives within us, and how it brings to our remembrance things that he said, and help us navigate to and fro on this earth. It is very, very important that we know how to navigate, and we teach the generation that's coming behind us. That way they would know how to navigate and not get caught up. So God is our Father. And he meets each one of us at our own pace. All right. So we see the same evidence, but we respond differently. So faith is not just like a one size fit all. All right. So we all are going the same way, but just in different lanes. So death does not get the final word according to the scriptures. We are called by name. We are believers. So grief can blind us. Just know that. And we already experienced some of that, and we already can see, but now it's about realizing and acknowledging and understanding what grief does to us. So the revelation often comes through like relationship, not information. God speaks personally, not just generically. So we can all hear the word, but it just hit different on each one of us. So we are seen, we're known, we are not abandoned, we are sent. We each have a mission to carry the word to whoever so will. Let them hear, let them come, let them hear this word. God has no respect to persons. He can use anybody, and you already know, even he can use a donkey. So that's how it goes. That's how powerful our God is. Our mission is to deliver the message as we are the messengers. As we are resurrected from death to life, we begin a new creation. So it's just like from death to life can mean several things. One, it can mean that we done put away our old ways and we became a new because we want to follow the way, the truth, and that way we can experience this life. Or death from life, meaning like we died in Christ. We died in the word of God and we believe. And that means that even though our flesh have an expiration date and it goes back to where it came from, it was made from dust, and then our spirit goes back from which it came from, if you believe or if you don't believe. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so as a saved believer, we are empowered. Now we are on a mission, even before we are totally woke to it. The preparation has already been since we were birthed into this world. So you have to bring and be aware of that about ourselves. What was started, we will continue. So all this was started way before we even was thought of in as a seed, or in our mother's womb. Our ancestors had begun this, but then they had choices to choose which way they would go. So it brought all kinds of death, but understand, if you may have doubt, it's not really a rebellion. If we need to go and search for evidence, do it. Our faith is strengthened through encounters. When where he said two or three, when they come together, God will be in the midst. That's where the encounters will happen. When we gather, when we read, when we study those, you're encountering the Spirit. He would be there to bring to your remembrance, to help you with understanding, all right, knowledge, wisdom. So we bring our questions to our Father. It's okay to ask God, and then that He would direct you. I always ask, Father, what is it that you want me to tell your people? What do they need to hear? What is they need to understand as they travel to and fro on this earth, as they learn how to navigate? What wisdom and knowledge that I could tell them to help them along their way. And He always always show up. He always shows up and give me a word to give you. All right. So open your spiritual ears, open your spiritual heart, that you may be able to hear and understand where we are going with this. So when we, start to look at ourselves, we understand that we have an identity. The identity is revealed in us. Then we can confess, like, yes, my Lord, my God. We say to our spirit, Father, you are my Lord. You are my God. Take ownership of this. Increase our faith. This is what it is. You must believe. Belief is not just an intellectual thing. It's like it produces like life. So faith in the word is the doorway to the truth of life. So I said all that to get to the core of grief. So you had to understand about the spiritual realm, who we are, what we're designed for. And then when this core of grief and different things happen to us, we won't be lost. We won't understand. We'll know how to deal with it. All right. So if we had the core of the grief, whenever something happens to us, first thing, what happened? And that's the event that describes the specific action or situation. So how it affected us, like the impact emotionally, spiritually, practically, and then what value or boundaries was violated, in this grief, like the principle, what is our expectation state, or what should have happened instead. Sometimes it need like a resolution, a clarification when we experience a death of a loved one, or we need correction or apology, change, or etc., etc. We just need to feel something in these. So basically, those are the core of grief, even though it comes in different stages, and we'll explain each one of the stages, or the basic stage, because it may be more, but these are some of the basic things that kind of like open your spirit up to allow you to see yourself, and then understand some things that you may be bound or experience, or some things they may have you in a hold, so you can understand how to let go. So since we often explore scriptures and spiritual formation, one of the books, Psalms have book 13, 22, and 142. So make sure you write those down so you can kind of like go and look at the spiritual view of what they're saying about grief. So that's Psalms 13, book 13, Psalms book 22, and Psalms 142. So the reason why I said it like that, because as we read, Psalms don't have chapters. They are considered as books. So that's just a FYI information for you, and wisdom and knowledge for you, that you may understand what you're handling, what you're reading, where you understand. Well, hello. Can you put them in the comments, please? Got it. The books, I will. Thank you. I'll take care of that. Yes, I can. So, and then I have some more. So I add all of them to the comments. So where David brought grievances to God with honesty and structure, we got to understand that too. And those are some of the views that you may understand in, the books of Psalm that I just, referenced to. And then always look, if you need to inbox or even in this comment or under whatever video, you still type comments in there, and I will always review them to kind of like help clarify whatever you need to know, even though we may not be live at the time. Okay, so the stages of grief is the inner movement of the heart. So when are we facing loss? So whenever we facing loss, our inner movements is just stages of grief. It's like a shock or a deep change. So sometimes it comes like in waves that rise and fall. Sometimes repeating. Sometimes it's overlapping. Grief is a process of meaning or make. Like, it's not a checklist. So it's just like make it make sense. All right. So Key, I definitely would take care of that for you. Maybe at the end of our session, and then make sure you just stay on to look for them while I do that, and I'll take care of you that. And hey, Mario, have a good one. I'm so glad that y'all here. If you have any questions or anything that I'm saying, make sure you comment, and I'll be sure to try to make sure that we get them answered. All right. So the first stages of grief is denial. This is like, this can't be happening, and we already always experience that about some kind of tragic death that people may go through and may not understand. So it's like a protective stage. Our mind slows the impact so that we can like survive the initial blow. It looks like numbness, disbelief, emotional shutdown, avoidance of reality. It's our soul catching its breath. So that's denial. And majority of the time, we always say that whenever we hear a loved one that has left this earth to go back, home. The next one is anger. Why did this happen? Anger is the energy that returns after shock. It can be directed at yourself. It can be directed at others, God, the situation, the unfairness of the loss. Sometimes that's where anger would, spew out. So anger is not a failure of your faith. It's when you lament, that means cry out. It often reveals what mattered to us, and how we felt about it. I do know of some who gave up worshiping because they prayed and prayed and prayed for their loved one. They didn't want them to die, but the loved one time was already expired to leave and to go, even what tragic it is. It was just their time. They had a mission, they completed it, And sometimes it's short, some people be long. We don't know when. We don't know when we're gonna leave this earth. That's what I always say, be ready to go. Always have your business in order, your business fixed. That way the people who you're leaving behind won't have to, deal with whatever mess you left behind. And some people don't leave a mess. They have all their business fixed in order. So when that time come, all is well. They have lived this, fought a good fight, as Paul said. I done fought a good fight of faith, and I done ran this race, and he's done. The next stage is called bargaining. So bargaining is if only ... If only what? Now we find ourselves trying to rewrite the story. So if only I should have been the one. Maybe if ... I would have listened to what I had like seen when the warning signs was coming. What if God said it was time and they completed their mission, like I was saying earlier, and no matter how old or how young, it's the mind reaching for control in a moment where control was lost, and just me getting punished for a year. I mean, like, what if I would have paid attention to my mama when she was telling me not to do such and such? I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't end up with that. But, and that's like, I woulda, shoulda, coulda, maybe, if, what if. So sometimes we bargaining in our minds about stuff like that. So it don't have to be totally with that, but it also would bring grief. Punished for a whole year? For real. Seriously. So it's just like not only just like grief and death. It's just can show up anywhere in anything. But definitely we're talking about, our main thing is about our loved ones and how they, tragically, feel like part of us is being ripped out, because that's part of our spirit. That's part of a person that was, attached to us. So it's like, then it starts to form like another one, depression. This hurts. This hurts. All right. And this is the weight of reality settling in. It can feel like sadness. It can feel like emptiness. You begin to withdraw, loss of motivation. This stage is not weakness. It's the heart acknowledging the depth of what was lost. Somebody that you really cherish, somebody you looked up to every day, somebody that was part of you, somebody that their spirit was attached to your spirit. Okay, so I feel what you're saying, because when my friend passed, I had so many whys. Yeah, but did you have anyone to help you with that? But now that you are a believer, do you understand a little bit better why? We have expiration dates. We don't know when we're going to leave this earth. We don't know how we're going to leave this earth, and this is just how it is in life, so sometimes we, be given a second chance, another opportunity to go out there and live our life. We had a diagnosis, and once we overcame that, then we got another opportunity to live a different way. So it's like that. So we need to put down some of the whys, or maybe when we finish this session, maybe it will answer some of your questions that you will have. And if not, we always can do a part 2, right? So the next one is acceptance. This is like real, and we are like learning to live with it. And then I guess, Key, you at that point, we're learning to live with it. And it's like, what doesn't it means? What does it mean? We learning to live with it. All right. So that means like, well, it doesn't mean like, if you say, Key, that you're okay with what happened, you're not okay, but you accepting it because, this is God. I mean, it's their time. So we have to accept that. You're over it. That doesn't mean that you're over it, even though you're accepting this loss. It doesn't mean none of this. So we stop missing what was lost. That does not mean that we stop missing your friend. It does not mean that you stop missing your friend. It means that we're beginning to integrate the loss in our life. And honestly, and hope, as if we were like our loved ones, that we would see them again. And another book I'm gonna give you is First Thessalonian, and I have that in there too. First Thessalonian chapter 4. Thessalonians got chapters. Thessalonian chapter 4. All right. I had no choice because he came in my dreams to let me know I'm okay. I had no choice. To be okay. Yeah, okay. All right. You know, understandably so. And you have people have, you know, things like that. Sometimes it be dreams, sometimes it be people, sometimes, you know, the spirit that's within you because you have faith and you believe in God and you understand the spiritual realm about resurrection, about leaving here. That's why I talked about resurrection in the beginning, just to give a base before I get down up in here about, the spirit and dealing with grief. So sometimes healing and our growth, recovery are emotional, restoration, that's emotional. It does not, move in a straight, predictable line. It doesn't go that way. So it's not like it's hurt, healed, done. It doesn't have a neat little timeline. So you can feel better like one day, King. You can feel better one day. And then the next day is like, got the worst day ever. Then you better again. So grief behaves more like a seasons, like steps. So the Bible doesn't like present grief as a neat little progression. It talks about lament. That means naming the pain, naming the wrong, and then you have a petition or appeal. You calling on God like for justice or mercy. Then you have to understand about trust and try to align yourself back up, recentering our hearts on truth, anchoring ourselves back into our God's character. And then we having hope, waiting for that restoration. So then you looked at action, responding to with wisdom rather than reaction. Because some people be so angry they just go out and react. So you responding with wisdom and understanding that God is a just God. And it just, we all, just like your friend, we all have an expiration date to leave this earth. We just don't know when. And I guess that's the most tragic part about it, because we could be gone in the blink of an eye, and not understanding, okay, well, I know not too long ago I was talking to this person and now they not even here. Understand that. The next set of books, and I have them also written, is still the book of Psalms, book 34, 42, 77. And those are Psalms. You can go and read them to kind of give a better understanding of the word and what it says about grief. Lamentations is a book. I think it was inspired by Jeremiah and his lamentations and what he was going through. And then the book of Job, we know Job experienced, some things that was going on. It had the death of his kids, but the Lord blessed him on the back end because he kept the faith. So grief is treated as sacred ground when it comes to the Bible. And hope you will find that like in some of these books that I mentioned, where God draws near to the brokenhearted. So let the spirit live through you. Let their spirit live through you. So everything that they like said, taught you, told you, do it. Their spirit is still alive. Their flesh is just not here. And that's one thing that I'm praying that, the church would, continue to teach us about, spirits and the flesh and how it all works into one and what it is. Because we have been, I'm going to say left behind, lost when it comes to different things, when it comes to the spirit realm and when loved ones die. And I think it was Thessalonians that would talk about it. So when you go back and read Thessalonians, you would see that a little bit more when it talks about that. So let their spirit lives in us, And I pray that all will be well. And I pray that you had a better understanding or an opening understanding about the stages of grief and what it is. And I pray all will be well, as we go to and fro and we navigate through this world, we'll better understand when loved ones die and what happened to them, as they body go back to dust from which it came, and then their spirit goes back to God from which it came. Or if they decide not to worship God or believe in Him, they spirit go to darkness. But we all have a choice to choose whom we want to live within us, whom we want to abide in us. Well, I pray all is well with you. Blessings and peace and love until we meet each other right back here again on this inspirational journey. Blessings, blessings, and more blessings. Have a good one. Stay tuned. I'm going to be texting these items into the chat. All right. Have a good one.